Our US commentator Kristin Tate is all over the Trump circus.
Oh, yes. This is all anybody is talking about right now. Trump is apparently facing 34 felonies for these trumped up charges related to improper business expenses related to payments to Stormy Daniels. He is in New York now, and everybody is waiting to see what happens next, Chris. The nation is absolutely on edge, and New York is bracing for protests. So we'll see what happens, but no cameras are allowed in the courtroom, which is quite unusual for the U.S.
We've had that extraordinary situation, the live coverage of the plane flying and landing and Trump arriving, all this expectation. But behind this, it's a really serious issue, right? There was impeachment 1, there was impeachment 2, there was the police raid on Mar-a-Lago. Now this prosecution on what we believe is a pretty technical charge. It looks like politics by prosecution, doesn't it?
Yes, well, this is obviously just a political hit job. I mean, these rabid leftists, they just hate Trump. They tried to get him with the phony Russia investigation. That didn't work. So they tried to get him with the impeachment. That didn't work. So now they are trying to get him with this. And they have no regard for fairness. They don't care about ripping the country apart at the seams. And mind you, Chris, these are the people who are constantly shrieking and screaming and crying about threats to democracy. They couldn't care less about threats to democracy. This country is so divided, and I am terrified for what's going to happen next. This is way bigger than just charges against one person. This is about the future of the country and how politics is going to work in the United States moving forward. And it's about a justice system that has become completely weaponized. I will say this, though, all of this is a huge shot in the arm to Trump's campaign. Conservatives are really rallying behind him. So this is good news for Trump.
Yeah, but let's drill into this a little bit. Of course, we worry about protests and the reaction of people. We hope people remain calm. But Trump's a former president, effectively as a contender for 2024. He's like a leader of the opposition because he's just so popular, yet he's been pursued in this way. Now, we worry about protests, but what about the political process? What about the democratic institutions in the US? There's a lot of strain on those and a lot of people losing faith in them.
Oh, of course. I mean, this is unprecedented, right? And there are lots of questions about why is this happening now? Why is Alvin Bragg bringing these charges years after these events occurred? And again, these are usually misdemeanors, not felonies. Why are they being treated as felonies? I mean, we can ask these questions, but I guess the answer is actually quite obvious and everybody sees the answer, which is it's all about politics. This is about leftists trying to use a justice system to take out the leader of their political opposition. It is absolutely disgusting. And it's really scary because this sets a new precedent for what's going to happen moving forward in this country. And yeah, we're waiting for protests. I hope it doesn't get violent. The cynic in me thinks that the media actually wants it to get violent. I think they're licking their lips, waiting for another incident of right-wing violent protests so that they can whip up their base on the left again, because the January 6th stuff is getting pretty old. But yeah, everyone is really on edge.
No doubt if there are protests, the leftists and the media will blame Trump for that as well. But talk to us then about the 2024 race. In the short term, this is surely wind beneath the wings of Donald Trump. A lot of commentators saying this guarantees that he'll get the nomination. Is that the case? Has this sort of blown Ron DeSantis and any others off to the side?
Well, I don't think it's guaranteed him the nomination. We still have a while to go, and people in this country have a very short attention span. You know, something happens and seems like the biggest story in the world, and 2 weeks later, no one remembers it. But it's certainly a shot in the arm to his campaign. He's apparently raised about $8 million since the news of the indictment first broke, so that's great for him. And I was looking at the polls before we went live, and just 2 weeks ago, Trump was polling at 47% compared to Ron DeSantis, who was about 39% just among Republican voters. That has now changed dramatically just in 2 weeks. Trump has jumped up to 57% Ron DeSantis is way down at 31%. So in the short term, this is looking very good for Trump in the primary. I will say this, though, Chris, I don't see how this helps Trump as much in a general election, because there aren't a lot of independent voters out there who already are a little scared of Trump and think he's just too unstable and bombastic because they believe what the media tells them. We're all of a sudden going to say, oh, well, because of that indictment, now I'm going to vote for Trump. I just don't think there are a lot of those types of voters out there. But the Republican base is definitely rallying around him right now.
Well, if today was a circus, it's going to be even more extraordinary tomorrow when Donald Trump does a front court. We better check back with you again tomorrow, Kristin. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'll be watching closely and look forward to talking to you tomorrow.